Hello everybody, my name is Fractured Wolf, and today we're going to be doing something way different. As promised on one of my Twitter accounts, I'm actually going to be making another game to try to support myself a little bit better. So this is purely just going to be to goof off, but we're going to try to keep it professional. I will also be posting this on my other account on YouTube, so if you really want to see it, you can. So, we're just going to get right into it. So, to start, we're going to start out with, like, a normal base plate, right? So, our goal is to try to, like, make something small but functional for the community. So, for starters, let's say we want like a neon map, right? Like let's make a neon clicking game. You click like a cube or something, or honestly we could just kind of see what we got and we'll work with it from there. But let's see. Let's just make the map first. So first of all, we need to keep this organized. So to start, let's actually remove the base plate because it's not necessary. We're going to group these all together and we're going to call this general. We're going to open that up. We're going to import another folder in there, and we're going to call this spawn points. We're going to duplicate that and call it map. And then we're going to put the spawn point, obviously, in the spawn point location. So, for the map, we want this to be like the center of the room, I suppose. So let's maybe not like totally center. Maybe like something small to start, but fancy. So let's say, like, let's add in a player right here. Let's build a black avatar. And he's just going to sit right here, act as like the base, right? We're even going to make this invisible because that's not needed. So this is the player right here. He's just chilling. We want to make this look presentable from his perspective. So if we were to zoom in all the way or whatever we need to do here, you know, obviously from his perspective, this is kind of what we would see to start with. Yeah? So what we're going to do is make this like asymmetrical, this room. Make it like a 50 by, we'll go by 50 by 50 size room, or maybe a 50 by 40. It doesn't have to be that big, because this is just going to be like the spawn room. You spawn in, and this is what you're going to do. Yeah. Also keep in mind, I'm decent with scripting, so doing this kind of thing is no biggie for me. So here, I'm also going to get Blender ready for this, because this is going to be probably a small, big project. If you guys like what I've got going on here, then I am happy I could deliver something fun, although I can't say this is going to be fun for everyone. So, let's go ahead and just do the room. So right now, this is what we have. We're going to call this... Actually, we're not going to call these anything right now. We're just going to work with what we have. Let's increase the size of the room. Let's make it like yay high. Large, but not too big. I want like a cozy feeling, you know? So this is probably going to be like more of a tutorial base for players that want to build like a game, I suppose. Not that what I do really matters to anyone, but personally this is something I would seek in a game if I was to play it myself. Even if no one else plays any other game, I could really just do this for myself and make it like, oh, okay, I can make my own tools. I can have fun with what I make, you know? And in all honesty, I'm not kidding. I would do that. Personally, I've thought about remaking old Mineplex with like micro battles, cake wars, and all that. But that kind of stuff takes time. And frankly, time isn't like that big of an issue for me anymore. Like, I spend a lot of my time working on Roblox Studio and looking for work to do, but for now, this is what I'm doing on YouTube, okay? And yes, this is what's his nuts. I'll let you know who this is. Let me quick. Fractured Wolf. While this is on my Wandersoul Studio YouTube channel, this is Fractured Wolf. And yes, I have like an alternative side of me. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. So anyway, yes, I'm Fractured Wolf from that account, and this is my professional account. So if, let's say, there was NSFW stuff, no, I'm not posting it here. Never. If ever I did make NSFW stuff, which Roblox has contacted me regarding that before for a model I have done. However, the assumption was false. It is not going to be used for NSFW stuff. It's a simple Roblox Studio render because personally I would prefer seeing some of my models in Roblox Studio because it looks better to me there than it does on Blender since I don't have a lot to work with there. I'm getting into material creation right now, which probably henceforth means I might be getting into texture and like particle designing. So bear with me, Roblox, we'll figure it out. Anyway, back to the video. So we want like a decent sized room, kind of, you know, like cozy, I guess. Like define cozy, what would I want in a room, right? Well, for starters, the spawn point can be right up against the wall, I suppose. For starters, let's say this is the spawn room. Not too big, but fair size. This is going to probably be like a room with, we're going to say a lava lamp if I ever go that far with this game. I don't know. And if so, well, quite frankly, it would be easier to, like, have a bunch of particles that I can make on my own for that. No, they wouldn't be perfect, but they would be decent. So let's make a decent door here, something like that, right? So here's like a door, and we'll start with that. We're going to call this... Actually, let's group it together. We're going to call it lobby. So this is our lobby. We can duplicate this, move it over, and we're going to call this clicker room. So we want like a game that gives a good atmosphere. So before we get into like designing the atmosphere, we could do that now, but we're not going to do that too quickly. I'm actually going to rotate that so that way, yeah, the doors fit together. In fact, I could honestly just remove this end of the wall and just ever so slightly push it this way. There we go. Now that fits. Now, let's say we wanted like, this is going to be the clicker room, yeah? However, we need a game where every time the player spawns, it creates a leaderboard. So for an example, we're going to add another folder here. We're simply going to call it script or scripts. And we're going to insert a script right here. We're going to call this leaderboard management. Now, something that this is going to be good for, yes, I'm fairly decent with scripting. We want a script that every time the player joins, it creates a leaderboard. So for starters, local players equals game dot players. Now, I always start my code like this. I define things first before I define other things. We're going to call this, we're going to type in players dot player added connect function player. We're going to capitalize this. Actually, let's change this. player service, we'll call it. So once this is done, let's go ahead and type in, let's say, so this is going to be the player, right? Like obviously it could print out the name of the player, however, we're not going to do that. So we need a new instance for a folder, which the game is already recognizing. So if we type in local leader stats equals instance.new folder, we're not going to do this though. I like to separate that. And we're going to name it leader stats and parent it to the player. However, while this is going to say cache, in fact, we're going to leave this to say cache for now. However, I'll change it in the future. Maybe I'll make up some weird currency of some time. Maybe I'll do it during this video. I don't know. So this is what we have. It's going to be parented to that. So obviously when the player's added, if we boot into the game right now, there's our leaderboard right there, just off to the side. Now, when you're in the game, we want it to where the leaderboard saves. So for an example, let's do this. We're going to add local, data store service, data store. And we're going to leave it like that for now. So that says cache data store. We're going to change this. We're going to call this data. And we'll probably change it in the future. So while this says cache data store, we're just going to call it cache data because we already know what this does. We can even define this. The name of the data store to be saved and loaded from. And we're going to just call this the data store service. Now, while that's done, this is just going to be something that fires on its own. So when players join, a function is called. While this isn't, well, I guess this here is a function, but we're going to leave it at that. So this says cache. We're going to add something else and call it rebirth. Rebirths. And as you can see, it's already doing its job. However, it would appear this is getting straight to the point. So local cache data equals data get async player user ID. Loads the player's cache data. And then we got so on and so forth. So this would be the data, yeah? However, while that's done now, we want to make it to where the player is booted. So for an example, we're just going to type in cache data, and we're not going to change this at all. We're just typing in cache data. Okay, maybe not. Okay. Let's remove this, like all of this actually. We're gonna call this something else. So let's go ahead and type in data. Get async. Data cache.value equals data get async. So this might be good. I'm not too great with like messing with data store, so this is a learning curve for me on video. So the cache value would be set for the data, right? So assuming that will always start at, you know, like 0, we need to make a part yet that does that. So for an example, let's make And nothing too fancy. Let's just add a single part for now and drag it out. And we're going to move it to wherever we want. So for an example, let's shrink it down. It can be a 2x2 for now. Let's just make it a floating part. And let's make it light up, honestly. In fact, can I drag this out? Yes, I can. Okay. So I'm going to make it to where my materials just are in a sidebar. Let's go to special and make it glow. So here is a glowing material here. Now, let's say we wanted to do something else. For an example, we want to make this add points to our system. So we're going to take this and put it in here. We're actually just going to call this folder inside scripts leader stats. We're going to rename this to system management. We're going to name a lot of our scripts this way, but we should understand that system management will only correspond to the parented folder. So for an example, we're going to call this cash giver. I'm going to turn something on. Hold on. There we go. So while this is going to be called cash giver, we are now going to add a thing. Actually, we don't even need to do all that because it's right here. So the second the player joins, there should be a system that automatically creates, let's say, a you know what? Yeah. So for an example, when the player joins, we're going to make something. So this is obviously a function that's called, but instead we are going to do something different. So for an example, this is when the leaderboard gets created, and we're going to do something else. We're going to separate it. So we're going to call this currency settings below for now. And we're going to call this leader stats below. Actually, yeah. Currency below, leader stats below. Just like so. So, right here, we're going to add local click detector equals instance.new click detector. Click detector dot parent equals script dot parent dot cash giver. What is all this now? Script dot parent dot cash. You know what? Cash giver. Now, once this is done, click detector dot mouse click connecting the function. We are going to do something new. So while this is exactly what it's going to do every time the button is clicked, we're going to test that right now, actually, just to see what it does. So for an example, oh, I know what's wrong. Okay. I haven't published the place, so that's what's wrong. So we're going to call this, it's kind. I guess we can kind of say it's like a similarity with Cookie Clicker. Some of my stuff is not put where it's supposed to be. We're gonna call this game for now Neon Clickers. And we're gonna call it, we're not even going to give it a description for now. However, we'll make it available for all platforms. We're going to create the game. And there we go. Game's fully created. Everything's set up just as it should be. However, we need to fix this really quick, so you might see me disappear. We're going to publish the game. We're going to save our progress. And we're going to come right back. All right, so Here is Neon Clicker. It's set to private right now, but that's okay. There we go. Our material management is also put away. So yeah, you see, so now when we boot in, the game's all set. It's just I don't think the data save is working. I don't know why this isn't here. Did I miss something in the output? Data store service. Studio access to APIs is not allowed. Okay, we can fix that. So I missed when Roblox had like the ability to like fix that, you know, like where you could see the settings just up here and click it, like game settings. In fact, okay, maybe it doesn't exist. I don't know. Could I like add a tool? Experience settings. I did not know that was a thing. Shame we can't do that here. Okay. So this is easy access now. However, we are going to security, enable studio access to API services, and that should be it, I guess, for now. So every time we boot into the game, we shouldn't see that. It said value of type nil cannot be converted to a number, assuming it's talking about this. There isn't a current number for this. However, we should make it to where every time we leave, it does exactly that. However, we gain cash from clicking, so that's cool. Something else we can probably do. Let's make it to where every time we click this, it saves the data. So for an example, that's the click detector, but every time you click, it adds one. And we're gonna, yeah, see, it gets the idea. So every time the player joins, that's the data that's going to be saved. So while there isn't any data to save, every time we click, it's going to save data now. If request queue fails or fills, further requests will be dropped. Try sending fewer requests. There's not many requests being sent though. That's okay. So every time you click, it adds. Let's leave and rejoin. Just to test and see if it, you know, boots. We could also bind to close to save the data. Okay, so obviously that's set. If we join now, there's our cache. However, since that's obviously an issue, let's do something different. Instead of it saving the data this way, let's bind to close. So for an example, player added. Let's go to player services. Player removing. So obviously it gets the data. So end of function. We're not going to name that end of function. That sounds dumb. We're also not doing all of this now. What is this? Data store service, get data store, cache data. We're not doing that either. So local cache equals player dot later stats dot cache dot value. Now, since the game already gets that, this is already defined. We're also going to add local rebirths equals player dot later stats rebirths value. Now, when the player leaves, it will set the async for both of these. Now, assuming that's how it's going to work, we are going to go click this like enough times to where this reaches 50. Now, when I leave, this should still say 50. So if I come back now. Oh, no. Maybe it didn't do it right. Hold on. Cache dot value. Maybe it didn't save the right values. Like, let's try this. Get that up to 10. Leave. Okay, obviously it says there's something wrong there. That's not right. Maybe I'm missing something here. Let's remove the rebirths then and see what it does. So let's try something else. Game dot bind to close. Let's try this. I don't get that either. All right. So now there. Let's give this a shot instead. I don't know why that did all that. It was not right, man. What is this? Okay. This is not right. Oh, yeah. Something is 100% busted. Function. Expand. Player. And then we paste that in. So this will set the async for that. We also want to save the async for the rebirths. We don't need those at the end. So let's try this one more time. Highly doubt it's gonna work. I don't know how I got the data store to work previously, but we're gonna set it to that. Leave the game. Leader stats is not a value. Member of enum that close. Okay. So maybe it's seeking the wrong thing. I think it's looking for the wrong thing. We've got that. Let's try something different then. So local cache equals player service. No. Player service. We need to find the actual player itself. However, I guess this wouldn't be bad if this saved everybody's cache. However, this needs to be unique to the player itself. So player service. Or, hold on, new idea. For player in pairs, player service, get players. There we go. Now, that's the cache. However, we are looking for said player. We are also going to be changing this to something different. We're going to call this game closing. So player dot character dot, actually not dot, leader stats. All right. So this should be unique to the game. So that should be the only thing that saves. We are gonna try this one more time. I'm fairly decent with scripting, but this is why I have the output here so I can see that. We didn't get any error messages. Data can't be accessed from client. Well, that's odd. Let's try something else then. It says that, but I don't think that's right. Set that to 11. that still didn't work. Alright. So, let's try something else then. It was working up here. However, we need to try something new, obviously. So, bind to close. Let's see what the AI does. So, we don't need all that. We know what that does. Alright, so this is all here now. Let's give this one more shot, just to test. Leave the game, rejoin. Okay, so obviously the data store works now because of AI. I'm fairly decent with scripting, but AI assisted with the making of this script, I suppose. However, we can make this more to our wants and needs, so we don't need this to loop through the players. We already got that. So that's done. I like to keep these all separated as well, just in case. So I know that says if cache, but we're not doing if cache because it's looking for the cache here, I'm pretty sure. So if we just, yeah, if we boot into the game, it'll just do what it needs to do. So we can obviously like do whatever. We can keep clicking, get more cache. If we leave now and come back, it will say 50. That's good news. So with that done, let's try to make this a little more cozy. Let's add a roof to the entire game. So here's the roof. We want this to be a little bit different looking. So for an example, since this is called neon clickers, I want to base the game off of like a neon look. So this may require some like inverted faced parts. So we're not going to screw with that just yet. However, we are going to do something else. I'm going to call this player simulations. So what that done, let's go into lighting and get this set up however we want. So obviously the bloom's here. We can have this set to however we please. We can have like intense fog, not so intense fog. I guess it varies. Let's just call it fog for now. Fog. Fog. Alright, there we go. And obviously that says sky, but who wants this sky? Actually, I want this sky because this might be, you know, data saving. This is the bloom effect. We can have that set very high. We can have it set lower if we need. Like for an example, let's set it that high. Not that that matters really. Okay. This isn't doing a whole lot here. So that says depth of field. We don't care for that. We don't care for sun rays. Do you think this is what's like causing that effect? Maybe we just have this disabled for now. So we would just make a separate folder and call it away. All right. So about the bloom effect now. We need a bloom. However, that doesn't seem to be possible for an unknown reason. I have a feeling I know why, but I'll be like right back. I'll still be here, but like I'll be right back. Oh, is this recording the wrong studio? Have I been talking to myself for this long? Wow. Okay, I'm still posting that, but wow. Okay. We've got this, don't worry. Let me correct that. There. And let me like close that out. There. No more mistakes. Anyway. What's up, Maya Brooks? Thank you for the follow. Alright. Anyway. We're still here. And this seems to have changed. However, the bloom has decided not to change. I don't know why it's not doing that. It's doing anything but the bloom effect, and that's kind of sad. Is that a frame? Okay, well, I don't know why some of these effects are not working. Maybe there's something I'm not missing here, you know? I don't know. I guess it doesn't exactly matter. We do want to add this to a genre, though. Let's just add it to adventure. Like, let's call it exploration for now. So, as promised, this is just a video of the new game. So every time you leave and join, your stuff is saved. However, this is not going to be my primary focus. So, yes, I am purely doing this because I intend to keep my promise. I do not intend to, like, do too much with this game. This isn't my primary focus. This is literally just for you guys because I made a promise and I said I will make a game for you. However, the game is going to hopefully be satisfactory. So in case you guys want to play something while you wait on Sans Multiverse Soul Battles, feel free. If you want to play anything other than my games, feel free. If you want to support my game in my like progression, feel free. But you know, this is what we have running for now. I will add a purchase system later. In fact, if you guys want, I will even go as far as make a special GUI that you can literally scroll on. Like a single block right here that floats, you can scroll and click buttons and all that good stuff. I can even make a bunch of cool, like, visual effects for that even, you know? So with that being said, thank you for watching. I hope you all had a good time seeing like 40 minutes of your time be used of me just doing this. I hope you guys don't mind, and I will see you all in the next video. Later.